Well, it seems like the world's gone a little bit crazy over the last week. We've got the ICE shooting in Minneapolis, which is creating its own problems here in America. But then the other issue is going on in Iran, which America probably also played a role in that since the CIA likes to do coups and try to overthrow governments. And, Iran is a terrible government. It's ran by the Ayatollah, who's just it's a patriarchal, a real patriarchal type of government, religion, government, whatever. Um, and it's been holding their people captive basically for the last 50 years. And the people are finally starting to revolt. They had the same kind of thing, was it last year or a couple of years ago, where a woman, I can't remember, she died somehow, either by the government or she was protesting them and something happened, whatever it was, I can't remember now. But thankfully, they're at least doing, I mean, they're trying to break free from the bonds of government control, and in this case, it's basically a theocracy, dictatorship, what have you. True, Islam religion taking hold of a country, and the people that defend it too are the same ones that call Trump a patriarch, or call Trump's type of governing patriarchal vision, blah blah blah. When they, on the other hand, are supporting and defending people that are a part of the most patriarchal religion that we know about. They'll say Christians are, and they'll make shows to try to indoctrinate naive leftists, mainly women, like The Handmaid's Tale, where it's a Christian national government that's basically, I'm not really sure what the exact plot is, but they're in their basically their hijab clothes, their dresses, they're covering their bodies, and to white leftists here in America, they they somehow appoint that to Christians when it's really just basically it's basically Islam, and just, but the way that the left does everything is they have to flip the script. It's always going to be type of whatever they're trying to overthrow at the moment. When in this case, it's a Christian uh, country, which it's really not. It's kind of for sure gone downhill from that for a long time. So I mean, these women are defending on one hand that religion that's taken over a country, put their women for sure in bondage, and left them no hope. And now they're stepping up, actually rising against, it seems. I saw a tower or a mosque or something in Iran was being torched earlier, like a couple hours ago. And, that's probably, I'm sure America has had some hand in doing that. That's a little hot. And then here in America, we have the ICE shooting, like I was saying, where a woman she was tailing ICE all day, supposedly, allegedly, her and her wife. And from the video, it looks like Jonathan Ross, the ICE agent that killed her, was in front of her. And I'm assuming they were trying to block her in because she was tailing them all day, and that's what she was a part of. Was what do they call it? Ice Watch, some activist group that she was allegedly in with her and her wife, where they basically just try to thwart the operations of ICE because they're insecure, naive leftists that are defending people that came here illegally. And in my point of view, I don't think all of them should go. I know people on the right hate that, but down here in Texas, there are people that do work hard, and there's a lot of lazy white people that don't do anything. They DoorDash. So we're kicking out a lot of the people that are building the infrastructure for this at least this state and part of the rest of the country too. And who are they going to be replaced by? Is the main issue I have with that. Because the schools really aren't. Some of them are stepping up as far as going with trade schools and trying to give the kids a path out of high school, and not just you have to pass your whatever the state test is in Texas now. It was like the TOS test and the tax test when I was in school, and I don't know what it's called now. Star Maybe it was the STAR test, the last one I took, whatever the hell it was. It's all just they're not really teaching anything besides trying to pass the STAR test or the state mandated test to see if you're learning what the government wants you to learn instead of the skills that you need in life once you get out of high school. Because some parents aren't the best parents and not going to, uh, for starters, some of these people are in a bad situation as it is. The parents of these kids that might not have a good future. They were dealt a bad hand when they were born. And, it should be up to the parents to help their kids, try to do something. And like I was saying, there are some schools that are offering, tech programs or tech schools, trade schools to at least give them a path to do something after high school besides just go find some random shitty job, and then you're just stuck flipping burgers, whatever it is, for years because you didn't get any skills. You might not have had the money to go to school, and college really isn't all it's cracked up to be either. Because how many people are in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for a piece of paper that says you have a bachelor's in whatever science, art, uh, business, whatever the last part of that bachelor's degree is, and that still doesn't really teach you the life skills that you need, especially when you're in college, because you spend 4+ years being told what to do, what to know by people that are already indoctrinated themselves with a mostly left wing view of the country. And it's, in my eyes, it seems like it was designed to be that way. It was, the communists kind of took over the college system, and it became like when I was in school, the teachers were always like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that was like in second grade. I'm like, I don't fucking know what I want to do when I grow up. I'm in second grade. And I remember, like, I do think it was in second or first grade, our teacher, which it was a cool idea. They gave us, or she gave us a list of questions to answer, and she was going to give it to us once we graduated. And in my case, it was 2008. So in 2008, she was there and had all the papers of everybody in that class and gave it to us. And I could only remember the main thing, which was, what do you want to do when you grow up? And mine said space cowboy. And I just looked at it and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, what do you expect though for somebody in second grade? I don't even know where that even came up in my mind. But when you're in second grade, you have no clue of the world around you, let alone what kind of jobs that there are anyways. And this is the kind of society we have created as far as the education system, where it's just we're teaching them really nothing, and then pushing them out into society, thinking that they're going to contribute, or that maybe the point of it is that they won't contribute. They don't have any skills, and I didn't have any skills really when I came out of high school. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I was kind of pushed into going to college, which is, I understand, but I still had no clue what I wanted to do. I switched my majors like probably 5 to 10 times for sure between the 3 years that I was in college, and I still don't know what I want to do. And that's, I'm sure a lot of people say that too, especially people that just came out of high school. got pushed into society, and they just they just work. You just do a 9 to 5, 7 to 5, like that's what I do. Um, and you live to work. That's what you do now. You just live to work, and that's not good. But I'm gonna go on a bunch of rants, but like I was saying with the Hispanics in Texas mainly, because that's the main state that they're funneling in from. They're the ones that are doing these labor jobs that are building things, houses, construction, the highways, basically anything that requires manual labor. And I do see a lot of the construction stuff. That's what I do. So I barely see any white boys out there. Um, and a lot of them did go to college, but some of them don't do. They're not doing anything that's beneficial to society as a whole. So it just seems like the country's been set up for failure, or at least maybe for sure after social media came into play. It's just gone downhill for people born here in America, and the people that were brought here, whether asylum seekers where they were just shipped here, or told to come here illegally, and once they get here, go find a border agent and say you're seeking asylum, and then they're just given the American dream that a lot of kids and people in my generation they didn't get to have. They just got pushed through the process of state government school system or federal government school system, and then just didn't have a chance at life. They just kind of got fucked. So it seems like we've been handing the real American dream to people that have been shipped over here, and you can't say that's a conspiracy anymore. It's I mean it's happened. It's happening, and it's being slowed down somewhat, by Trump, and people think he's evil for doing what is laws. Well, what is a law in the books as far as getting rid of. For starters, they weren't supposed to be coming here in the first place. They came here illegally. If you come through illegally, then if you come through legally, then yes, you can do whatever you choose. Buy a home, get a job, a good job, whatever it is, go to school, but not have the state provide your housing, your meals, your pathway for whatever. All the things that, I mean, they're giving out loans. The state of California was helping illegal immigrants get loans for houses, and then also giving them cash assistance as well. How many how many people were offered cash assistance by the government for a house? I mean, I think you have to be a pretty low income level to even have that ability in this country. But if you're coming here illegally, then you just get it right off the bat, and which has led to division on both sides of the country. Which it seems like that is the whole point of the red blue Republican Democrat two-party system. It's just to split the country in half, and no matter no matter what the map of the county uh, election, or the map of the presidential election each year, the when people show how red the whole country is, and you have these blue dots representing these counties where these major cities are, which is where the majority of Democrats live at. They all live in these bubbles, and they call they call the rest of the country living in a bubble because they live in small towns and rural counties, cities, and they think those people are the ones in the bubbles, but they leave the vast majority of the country to go and live in these hive mind bubbles where they're living on top of each other in apartments because they're whatever the word is. They think that people that are in these smaller cities are behind in the times, and I used to think that too. But once I went off to college and kind of saw what the teachers were teaching, I was it didn't make any sense. So we have a division in the country that's been caused by years, decades of this split with the parties, and it's at the tipping point now. and what happened in Minneapolis with the shooting, where you had the leftist activist Renee Nicole Good and her wife, whatever her name is, and they were interfering with federal ICE operations, and these people also are the same ones that lost their minds back in 2020 with the George Floyd issue. And that's kind of my point with saying that. Well, I didn't say it yet, but I was telling my buddy at work that this time it seems a lot different, as far as what could happen from this shooting. And he asked why. And in my head, there was a million reasons why, and I didn't say anything. I just said it just seems a little different this time. And I'll try to explain it like this: with the George Floyd riots in 2020, it was a drug addict black guy who had whatever amount of drugs already in his system gets pulled over, and then Derek Chauvin puts his knee on the guy's neck supposedly, and the guy George Floyd says he can't breathe, which I mean, yeah, you probably can't. I'm sure his heart was pounding because for one, all the drugs in his body that are already going to give you that effect as it is, and then you have a cop, that's putting some force on you, and they said that he was being choked by the knee, which I don't think that's what happened. I think that it what happened was the reaction of that amount of anxiety from one the drugs, and then two what's happening with the officer, the amount of anxiety on George's heart is what caused him to die from a heart attack or whatever it was that they say he died from. And you'll have the people on the right say he died of a drug overdose. People on the left say it's because of the knee, kneeling on the knee, excessive force, whatever. And it's why can't it just be two like the same? Like why can't those both be the problem? Not a direct cause from kneeling on his neck, but an indirect cause caused by an indirect cause with the knee, but the main cause was the amount of drugs in the system causing his body to basically just pumping of the heart like crazy already without the added pressure of being forced on the ground by the cop. And so, to the majority of leftists, they see that video and it is like it's sad because then you know that he's going to die. And if you after you watch it, after it's already happened, that guy dies later. And these people, these leftists, this would just be another guy that they would just walk by on the street. They wouldn't pay any attention to this guy. But this was during Trump's term. They were already pissed off at him the whole time. They started the riots protesting the night that he won in 2015. And it didn't really escalate or any worse until, the George Floyd riots. And then it was close to the end of his term anyways, and then they had the lockdowns with COVID because everybody wanted to, stop the spread. And the people that wanted everybody to stay at home were the ones marching in the streets, not being within, separating themselves 6 feet from each other, but instead being side by side, marching in lockstep, chanting mantras, buzz phrases about the oppression that Trump was causing on the black people. And so that's a completely different thing that's happening now, where they saw Trump as a threat in the first term, but in this term, it wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to be president in their eyes. And then they're already labeling ICE as Gestapo. They're going to send you to, basically concentration camps. And the detention center that they're sending them down to in El Salvador. I mean, that's a little wild. Unless you can prove for a fact that the people you send down to El Salvador, if that's the country that they're being sent to, I can't remember, wherever Bukele, wherever he's the president of, you better be damn sure that these people you are sending down there are the violent criminals that you are saying they are. So, with the separating the two issues, George Floyd and then Nicole Good, where you have a leftist activist, and so in their eyes, it's not just some random black guy that they would just walk by in the streets and ignore. Now it's one of their soldiers, essentially, her name Nicole Good. She was doing the part of the Marxist Leninist revolution. She was a soldier for the cause, for getting Trump out of office because in their eyes Trump is Hitler. Uh, so she was taken out in their eyes. She was murdered, assassinated, even though they mocked the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But you're not going to be able to reason with people like this for starters, because I'm sure on one hand they already know that a lot of their ideology is stupid. We're arguing with people that will say a man in a dress is a woman. So when you have that as one of the pillars for the foundation of your beliefs, it's going to be very hard to try to convince those people anything else that might be logical or rational, because they already think a guy that's wearing a dress is a woman. So Trump, Hitler, basically, in their eyes, is ordering ICE to go. This is all in their point of view. Is ordering ICE to go and round up all the illegals in the country and ship them off to concentration camps, the gulags. Uh, so I can. I'm trying to play. I'm trying to be in the middle of the field and understand every point of view, and I'm pretty good at doing that. So I can understand how, if you are in that ideology, how you can see these problems, and if you don't pay attention to everything, you'll believe that Trump is rounding up all these people. And if you read mainstream media, if you read article headlines, then they're all going to be swayed against Trump. I mean, the majority of the media is against Trump as it is. And the communists that came out of college and they all got positions in these places of power that are going to spread information, and whether it's misinformation or real information, in their eyes they may think it's true, but some of them they know it's not true. But it's all about overthrowing the Christian nationalist, even though it's really not. It is not a Christian nationalist government, but in their eyes, it is, because of what was it? Agenda. What was it? 2025, whatever they're calling it, where it was like the Heritage Foundation that wrote up supposedly Trump's blueprint for his second administration. So when you look at it like that, where George Floyd is just a random black dude that got killed by the police, and then they also thought that the police were a Christian group built to go after black people. That's what they were saying. That they had their buzz phrase is ACAB, which means all cops are bastards. Defund the police. What was There was another one too. I can't remember what that one was. I'm sure there's many more acronyms that just mean fuck the police. That's one too. Um, so we're not dealing with sane people. Some of them are sane, but they know what they're doing, and that's a problem. But the intention is to overthrow capitalism. That's the whole point of a Marxist Leninist revolution, which is what they were trying to stop back in the 50s with the Red Scare stuff. And it seems like that might have just been a smokescreen to act like we were doing something about it. And really, we're just covering up the issue so that it can't happen, and just forcing all these communists to go into universities where they're teaching these naive kids, these young kids that their frontal lobe isn't fully developed, so they're just being taught things by ideologically driven professors that already have the leftist mindset as it is to want to overthrow a capitalist government. And it makes sense why a lot of the kids that come out of colleges are swayed way left, and that's that's the real division in the country, um, because we already have the division that with the right and the left, with Republicans and Democrats. That's just we're basically like normal Republicans and normal Democrats, or were essentially on the same page with everything. It was just basically just how much more control government had over you. As far like Republicans are supposed to be less government, Democrats are supposed to be more government, and that's mainly because Democrats are they're going to be more anti-religion because they're more science driven. So they want to see a protector or a provider or something. They need something tangible that they can point to. When with the right, they're going to be more religious, so they want to have less of government because they have their faith and trust in God. And I can see both sides, and I see, to me, it should just be, it can be both. Like with basically everything else, it can just be both. Why can't we have a government that does provide stuff and then also isn't like what the whole point of the country was based off of is freedom of religion. You can believe in whatever the hell you want to as long as you're not hurting somebody else or yourself, or hurting people as a whole. um, and things aren't. It's not like that anymore. It's gotten worse, and it for sure. Like I was saying earlier, the social media platforms once that took off, probably in I don't know '08. That's really when Facebook, MySpace were taking off. Uh, I'm not sure when TikTok came to be, but X was all. Twitter was around for 2012, maybe I can't remember. Uh, and that was really just that's where it still is, but that's where the news happens. That's where it all first drops, basically. And it's still like that, even though there's less people that use it because Elon took over X. So another evil tyrant, or as Bernie says, as Bernie calls him, a oligarch. And these social media platforms, eventually they were pushing away people on the right, people in the middle, and they were only promoting people from the left. And so they eventually just started shadow banning or blocking people on the right that were spreading, in their eyes, misinformation, disinformation, whatever word you want to use for them to describe the news that people on the right were saying. And that caused a lot of people to, move to the left on their views because they didn't get to hear the other side. And that's also another cause besides the universities where a lot of people swayed more to the left. And thankfully, I was just in the middle as it was. I didn't, maybe back, a decade plus, for sure 10 to 15 years ago, uh, I would watch Fox, but I'd also watch Stephen Colbert every now and then, Anderson Cooper, because in my eyes, Anderson Cooper that was the news. CNN was the news, and Fox always was mocked or laughed at. So I'd still listen, and I'm more right wing, but in my eyes, I'm also a classical liberal. I just want truth. I want honesty. I don't want gaslighting. Gaslighting from either side. And speaking of that, back to the Renee Nicole Good stuff, um, where Trump made the truth post showing that the officer, was rammed, and he's in a hospital recovering, and you have the video showing him walking away, and I think that the right was saying that his leg was or his foot was broken, which I don't think it. Like I'm not that guy. I wasn't there. I can only see from the video, but he was walking fine. So you can take it from multiple points of view. The left is not going to believe. They're going to say that Trump is gaslighting or lying to you, even though they were okay with it over the last 4 years when Biden and Kamala were doing it the whole time. And my philosophy is I'm just against both sides doing it, anybody doing it in general. I just want no bullshit, okay? Just speak the fucking truth. And people will respect you. And if you continue to gaslight, lie to both sides, whoever, then I just feel like they're all just a part of the same deep state. It's just, and that's all. That could be the whole point of the division as it is to keep the goalposts moving in the background. We don't get to see the goalposts. They're always moving though because we're always focused on one side or the other, calling them out rather than just all coming together and saying, "Hey, the last 4 years this was going on, and we weren't okay with it, and now these 4 years we're okay with everything that's going on, even though the goalposts are still moving." And I just I just would like it to stop. I want people to be neutral and not so biased in their beliefs and call shit out on all sides. And I'm calling out Trump. I kind of took a big turn on Trump after the after he blew up on the reporter that asked Pam Bondi about the Epstein files. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? And that was the real breaking point for a lot of people on the right too with Trump. And that's people right now are blaming Candace Owens and other far right people for the division that's being caused in the right or MAGA, and all those people were on board with everything going on up until Trump lashed out at the reporter about the Epstein files. And so you can't blame Candace or these other right wing people that are now anti Trump because if Trump just would have been honest, right there, then we would not be in the situation that we are. And I don't know if people are on the right. I don't know if they're able to grasp that. There's people on both sides that are just going to be hard line left or hard line right. There's people we'll just say like the cat turd army, those dummies, cat turd in general. He's going to basically push and promote and agree with everything that's coming out of the Trump administration, just like people on the left. And these are all people on X. People don't might not know these names, but the prominent creators on X, Twitter, um, that are going along with the narrative of the government, depending on who's in power. So on the right, we have like Cato Dan Bongino, who's also, he's going to try to push and make everything look good that's going on in the administration without calling it out. And then people on the left, like the Krasensteins, who are fucking terrible, or Brooklyn Dad. There's a bunch of other people, uh, and people like me in the middle, we're not going to be heard. We're just basically speaking into the ether of a tribal warfare going on Twitter X, where it's just let's see how we can spin this both sides. That's basically what's going on X all day. Is let's see how I can spin this in my favor. Let's see how I can spin this in my favor on the right. And I sometimes it can be funny, but it's come to the point now where it's going to create a civil war. Um, and now people on the right are mocking some, not all of them. Some of them are mocking the death of Renee Nicole Good. And if you were against people on the left mocking Charlie Kirk's death, then you should still be against people mocking death in general because it's not something that should be mocked or laughed at. And I have a very dark sense of humor. So I've laughed at some messed up stuff, but there's a difference between, dark humor in general and then laughing at stuff that can lead to a potential civil war between two parties who all day try to find ways to spin stuff in their favor to sway the masses, and that is the real war, is the psychological warfare on people. and the psychological warfare is what's going to cause the Civil War to happen. We're in a totally different era in terms of warfare, and it's become an information war. So we have people, on both sides that believe completely different narratives, and just like what's going on with Minneapolis, I'm sure that the protests will come, the riots will come. This weekend will show that to be true or false, as far as if they get worse or not. In my eyes, I think that it will escalate as more. I mean, I think Trump was sending. I think I know it was a couple thousand more ICE agents to Minnesota after Tim Walz threatened the federal government with basically sending the state's National Guard to block or obstruct, defend the illegals in that state. And he's only doing that because he knows his time is up as far as politically, because he already said he's not going to run for governor again after all of the Somali fraud came out. And it's pretty bad when your own state government, the people in the government, are blaming you, Tim Walz, for the issue in the first place. And that's a fact. So that isn't a conspiracy as far as all of the fraud that's going on. And if you are, no matter what side you're on, you should be against fraud, no matter what side's committing it. I don't know why people have to defend fraud if it's on their side. It should just be down the middle. It shouldn't matter who the fuck it is. It should be no fraud. I don't know why that's so hard for people to grasp their heads around. If you want this country to survive, then you should be against the waste, fraud, and abuse that phrase came into being back in Obama's first term, because they were then quoting the same phrases that Elon and Trump were with Doge about getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse within Medicare and Medicaid. And there was even clips of Chuck Schumer back in the day talking about the illegals that are on these government programs. And if they were on these programs back then, as Chuck Schumer was saying, then I'm pretty fucking sure they're probably still on there, and they're vastly more on it now than there were back in '08 to 2012. And so it just, people, voices like mine won't be heard. The ones that want, neutrality, that want peace, they're only going to push the ones that create the most division. And maybe that's the whole point of it all, as far as, the deep state. Maybe that is the point, is to get to a point in this country where nobody trusts the government. And that is the point with trying to create a, maybe not a world government, but an actual full on government that has full control over the people, which is the whole point of what the deep state conspiracy is, for full control, which we're getting to that point with all the technology, all the cameras everywhere, where you can't go anywhere, do anything without being seen by some camera. And then your voices are heard with the mics everywhere. So it just seems like we're going down a path to full actual totalitarianism, and maybe Trump is a part of the deep state. I don't fucking know, but I do know there was. I'm pretty sure it's Bilderberg, which is another group that, for years it was called a conspiracy. Um, they have a map, and it's on my X page somewhere. I used to have it pinned to the top, but I ended up pinning something else. So it's in the ether now. Um, but there is a map showing what the Bilderberg Group envisioned for America by, we'll just say, 2030. I'm not sure what the year was, where it was called the United States of Americas, maybe something like that, and it encompassed, America, Mexico, Canada, and Greenland. And I saw that map maybe I don't know. I think it was before the summer, and it was the first time Trump was talking about, trying to acquire Greenland. And I was like, what? What? Are you kidding me? And so that was what first got me to question his full motives, besides the Epstein stuff, which Democrats call conspiracy for decades. And now all of a sudden they want it unveiled because Trump's in it. Trump's in it, which he probably is. I don't fucking know. Um, so seeing Trump's actions with wanting to, take basically take over Greenland, and he tried to convince Canada with it as well, and doing the same thing he did with Greenland, where he's bribing the citizens of Greenland with $5,000 to $10,000, I think, to want to become a part of America. And same thing with Canada, he did that too. Back back before I guess Mark Carney took over, and he's going to do the same thing with Mexico too. It's just he's already talking about doing, which I'm kind of in favor of it, but talking about striking the cartels. But when you're striking cartels in a different country, you're you're bombing you're bombing land that's in a different country than yours, which is a threat to that government because they're probably controlled by the cartel as it is. So I am in favor of getting rid of the cartels. I mean, why are we bombing and supporting these proxy wars on a different landmass across the Atlantic Pacific, whichever side you're going to look at it from? We're creating wars over there, destabilizing countries, creating coups to overthrow governments when we already have actual terrorists, the cartel, down on the southern border. When we should be doing something with that, and for the for decades we haven't done shit. We've they've taken way too much control in Mexico and in South America. So maybe Trump is a part of the whole plan, whatever the plan is, to get America to acquire all this other land, which, I mean, it kind of makes sense as far as wanting to control one landmass with one government, which I am against one government controlling everything, like the world government for one. Um, and is it, people on the right aren't going to agree with that because, Trump is their golden idol in the office, the orange idol. And they're going to go along with what he says. Not all people on the right, but a lot of them are they're just as hardliners as those on the left who put their heads in the sand over the last 4 years with Biden and Kamala. And I want people to wake up, pay attention to what's going on, and call shit out. And my intention with this podcast too is to mainly talk about the Renee Nicole Good stuff in Minnesota, Minneapolis. But I run on tangents. I run on rants. It's better if I have somebody here to, speak my thoughts to create a more direct line of how my mind works instead of it going instead of it going all over the place like it does. But that's how my mind works. So if you like that, then let me know. I'll create more videos like this. I'm just not a fan of talking by myself in a room. Feels weird. It's just me and a camera and a mic and a hookah. So, but if you like it, then let me know. If you don't like it, then okay, I'm shit. But I would like to do more of these. It is hard though to get me and to get myself, the momentum, the whatever to do it because I'm alone doing it. Uh, and I'd rather have somebody here with me that knows things like I do, so that we can just run off of each other. It would be a lot smoother. But I'm not smooth. I'm rigid. I'm all over the place. But yeah, thanks again. If you like it, let me know. Like, share, follow, all that bullshit. Have a good night or day, whatever time of the day, night it is that you're watching. Thanks.